Your Honor, I don't care what you say. Give me the ticket. I'll pay it. I need to go now. That's how it started. Those words came from a man who looked like he'd lived through a century of storms. His voice shook, but not from fear, from something else, something deeper. I'm Judge Frank Caprio, and I've been sitting on the bench at Providence Municipal Court for more than 20 years. I've seen thousands of cases, angry people, sad people, guilty people, innocent people. But on that Tuesday morning in February, I saw something that would stay with me forever. The man standing before me was 96 years old. His name was Edward Sullivan. He wore a brown cardigan that had been mended at the elbows. His glasses were thick, the kind you get when your eyes have seen almost a century. His hands trembled as he gripped a worn leather wallet. But his eyes, they were sharp, focused, desperate. If you believe justice should be equal for everyone, you'll want to see what happens next. My bailiff, Tony, called the case. Case 2026 TR 004721. The State of Rhode Island versus Edward Sullivan. Speeding violation, 78 miles per hour in a 45 zone. I looked at the file. Then I looked at Mr. Sullivan. "Good morning, sir," I said. "Please tell me what happened." He took a breath, a long one, like he was gathering strength from somewhere deep inside. "Your Honor, my son is sick, very sick. He called me at 6 in the morning. He has diabetes, type 1. He lives alone since his wife passed. He told me his blood sugar dropped too low. He couldn't move, couldn't reach his medicine. I'm all he has left." His voice cracked on that last part. I leaned forward. "Where does your son live?" "Cranston, about 12 miles from my apartment in Warwick." "And you were driving there when Officer Martinez pulled you over?" "Yes, sir, on Route 37. I know I was going fast. I saw the lights behind me, but I couldn't stop. Not until I knew my boy was okay." I looked at the citation. Officer Martinez had written detailed notes. She'd noted Mr. Sullivan's age, his emotional state. She'd actually called emergency services to Mr. Sullivan's son's address while she wrote the ticket. That's the kind of officer she is. Professional but human. "Did the ambulance get there?" I asked. Mr. Sullivan nodded. Tears filled his eyes. "Yes, they got there in time. They gave him glucose. He's stable now. But, Your Honor, those 12 minutes I was driving, I didn't know if I'd get there in time to save him or to say goodbye." The courtroom was silent. I could hear the old heating system clicking. Someone in the gallery sniffled. Then the prosecutor stood up. Her name was Janet Reeves. She'd been with the city for 8 years. Good attorney, usually fair. But she had a job to do. "Your Honor, the state understands Mr. Sullivan's circumstances were stressful. However, speeding at that velocity on a busy road puts other lives at risk. We have traffic laws for a reason. If we excuse every violation because someone had an emergency, we create dangerous precedent." I nodded. She wasn't wrong, but she wasn't completely right either. "Ms. Reeves, does the state have a recommendation?" "Yes, Your Honor. We recommend a reduced fine of $250, given Mr. Sullivan's clean driving record and his circumstances, but we cannot dismiss the violation entirely." I looked at Mr. Sullivan. He reached into his wallet. His fingers fumbled with the bills inside. I could see a 20, a 5, someone's, maybe $40 total. "Mr. Sullivan, can you pay $250? He looked up at me. "Your Honor, I'm on Social Security. My check is $612 a month. My rent is $400. I have medicine costs, food. I help my son with his insulin when I can. He lost his job last year when his company closed. He's waiting on disability approval." "So you cannot pay the fine?" "I can pay something. Maybe $50. I can save up. Pay $25 this month, $25 next month." Janet Reeves spoke again. "Your Honor, the state would accept a payment plan if the full amount is paid within 90 days. I sat back in my chair. I looked at Edward Sullivan, really looked at him. This man was born in 1930. He'd lived through the Great Depression, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Cold War, Civil Rights Movement, 9/11, countless presidents, technologies that changed the world. And here he stood, at 96, still driving because his son needed him, still trying to save his child even though that child was probably in his 60s. What would I do if my son called me, voice weak, scared, possibly dying? Would I drive the speed limit? Would I obey every law while my child's life hung in the balance? I knew the answer. Any parent knows the answer. Mr. Sullivan, I want to ask you something. When you were driving that morning, were there other cars on the road? Yes, sir. Not many. It was early. But yes. Did you drive recklessly, weaving between cars, running red lights? No, Your Honor. I stayed in my lane. I slowed at lights. I just went faster than I should have on the open stretches. Officer Martinez stood. I hadn't noticed her in the back. Your Honor, may I speak? Go ahead, officer. She stepped forward. Young woman, maybe 30, sharp uniform. Your Honor, I pulled Mr. Sullivan over at 6:47 a.m. Traffic was light. Mr. Sullivan was driving fast, yes, but he was in control of his vehicle. When I approached, he immediately told me about his son. He was crying, shaking, but he wasn't angry at me. He just kept saying, "Please, I need to get to my boy." I called for emergency services right away. Then I gave him the citation because that's protocol. But, Your Honor, if I'd known more then, I'm not sure I would have. Her voice was thick with emotion. I looked at Janet Reeves. Ms. Reeves, has Mr. Sullivan ever had a traffic violation before this? She checked her file. No, Your Honor. His record is completely clean. 79 years of driving. 0 violations. 79 years. This man had been driving since 1947. Nearly 8 decades without a single ticket, not one. And the first time he broke the law, it was to save his son's life. I made my decision. Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to answer honestly. Yes, Your Honor. Is your eyesight good enough to drive safely? Yes, sir. I get my eyes checked every year. I have my doctor's note if you need it. Do you have any other health conditions that make driving dangerous? No, sir. I'm slow getting around, but my mind is clear. My reflexes are still okay for normal driving. Do you drive often? Not much anymore. To the grocery store once a week, to check on my son twice a week, to church on Sundays. Has your son recovered from this incident? Yes, Your Honor. He's learned to set alarms now, to check his sugar before bed. It was a wake-up call for both of us. I nodded. Then I looked at Janet Reeves. Ms. Reeves, what is the purpose of traffic fines? She seemed surprised by the question. To deter dangerous driving, Your Honor, and to fund road safety programs. And do you think fining this man $250 will deter him from saving his son's life if another emergency happens? She hesitated. Your Honor, the law. I know the law, Ms. Reeves. I'm asking about justice. Do you think this man is a danger to the community? She looked at Mr. Sullivan, really looked at him. Then she said quietly, No, Your Honor, I don't. Then here's what I'm going to do. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Mr. Sullivan, I'm dismissing this citation entirely. You will pay no fine. Your driving record will remain clean, but I have some conditions. His eyes went wide. Your Honor, first, I want you to promise me that if you face another emergency like this, you will call 911 first before you get in the car. Let the professionals handle it. They're faster, they have equipment, they can help your son while you're on your way, driving the speed limit. Can you promise me that? Yes, sir. Yes, I promise. Second, I want you to help your son set up a medical alert system, something he can press if his sugar drops, something that calls for help automatically. The court has connections with social services. I'm going to have my clerk give you information about programs that can help pay for this. Will you follow through? Yes, Your Honor, absolutely. Third, I want you to know something. You're a good father. Your son is lucky to have you. At 96 years old, you're still protecting your child. That's not something you see every day. That's not something most people understand. But I do. I'm a father too. And I know that feeling, that terror, that love. So I want you to go home, call your son and tell him his dad loves him, and then I want you to take care of yourself, because he needs you around. Edward Sullivan started crying. Not quiet tears, real sobs. His whole body shook. Officer Martinez grabbed him gently by the elbow to steady him. "Your Honor," he said through his tears, I thought I'd lose my license. I thought I'd never drive again. You thought wrong, Mr. Sullivan. Today, justice isn't about punishment. It's about understanding. It's about seeing the whole picture. It's about remembering that laws exist to protect people, not to hurt them. Janet Reeves stood. Your Honor, the state has no objection to the dismissal. I banged my gavel. Case dismissed. Mr. Sullivan, you're free to go. Drive safely. Take care of your son, and take care of yourself. He nodded. He wiped his eyes. Officer Martinez helped him walk toward the door, but before he left, he turned back. Your Honor? Yes, Mr. Sullivan? Thank you for seeing me, not the ticket. Me. Those words hit me like a punch to the chest. I see you, Mr. Sullivan. We all see you. After he left, the courtroom was quiet for a long moment. Then someone in the gallery started clapping. Then another person. Then everyone. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was just respect, recognition. A room full of strangers, acknowledging that they'd witnessed something true. Janet Reeves approached the bench. Your Honor, that was the right call. Thank you, Ms. Reeves. Can I say something off the record? Go ahead. My father is 84. He lives alone. I worry about him every day. What you did for Mr. Sullivan, it reminded me that the people who enforce the law should never forget why the law exists, to protect, to serve, not just to punish. She walked away before I could respond. I called a 15-minute recess. I needed a moment. The next case was a parking ticket dispute, then a noise complaint, then 3 more speeding violations. Normal stuff, routine. But I couldn't shake Edward Sullivan from my mind. Later that afternoon, my clerk, Maria, knocked on my chamber door. Judge, I have something for you. She handed me a note, handwritten, shaky letters. Mr. Sullivan dropped this off 10 minutes ago. I read it. Dear Judge Caprio, you gave me back my dignity today. You didn't see an old man breaking the law. You saw a father trying to save his son. That means more than I can say. My son and I looked up the medical alert system. We found one that's free through the VA. He's a veteran. We didn't know about this program. Now he'll be safer. You didn't just dismiss a ticket today. You might have saved his life for the next emergency. God bless you. I'll pray for you and your family every night. Sincerely, Edward Sullivan. I folded the note carefully. I put it in my desk drawer. I have a folder in there. Letters from people whose cases touched me. People who taught me something. People who reminded me why I do this job. Edward Sullivan's letter sits on top of that pile now. Because here's what I learned that day. Justice isn't just about following rules. It's about understanding why rules exist. It's about seeing the human being behind the case number. It's about asking yourself, what would I do in their situation? What would love make me do? What would fear make me do? Edward Sullivan broke the law. That's a fact. But he broke it for the most human reason imaginable, to save someone he loved, to be there when it mattered most, to fulfill the promise every parent makes. I will protect you, no matter what, for as long as I breathe. And if we punish that, if we fine a 96-year-old man for loving his son too much, then what are we really protecting? The law or our own lack of compassion? I chose compassion that day. I'll choose it again tomorrow and the day after that, because that's what justice really means. It means seeing people, really seeing them, not just their mistakes, not just their violations, but their hearts, their struggles, their impossible choices, their love. Edward Sullivan taught me that, a 96-year-old man in a mended cardigan with tears in his eyes and $40 in his wallet, taught a judge about justice. And I'll never forget it. 3 months later, I got another letter, this time from Edward's son, Michael. He wrote to tell me his father had passed away peacefully in his sleep. He'd been 96 years old. He'd lived a full life, and in his last months, he'd told everyone about the judge who saw him as a father, not a criminal, who understood love, who chose mercy. Michael wrote, "My dad said you gave him his dignity back. He said he'd been afraid that day in court, not of punishment, but of being treated like he didn't matter, like his love for me didn't matter. You showed him it did. Thank you for giving my father that gift. Thank you for honoring the love between a parent and child. I'll tell my own kids about you someday, about the judge who understood what family means." I keep that letter in the same folder, right next to Edward's note. Because those letters, they're why I sit on this bench. They're why I listen. They're why I try to see the whole person, not just the paperwork. Edward Sullivan came into my courtroom facing a fine he couldn't pay, afraid of losing his license, terrified he'd lose his independence and his ability to help his son. He left with his dignity intact, his record clean, his heart lighter, and I left changed too. Because sometimes justice isn't about punishment. Sometimes it's about grace, about recognizing that we're all human, we all love someone, we'd all break a rule if it meant saving them. And when we remember that, when we lead with compassion instead of rigidity, that's when the law becomes more than words on paper. That's when it becomes human. That's when it becomes just. Edward Sullivan taught me that lesson, and I carry it with me every single day.